Hello, everybody, and good morning. I hope you guys are having a wonderful start to your day. Maybe it's afternoon, maybe it's already Sunday, depending on what part of the world you are joining us from today. But all I got to tell you is that when that first cup of coffee hits and you're ready to do a podcast, oh, it is a great feeling. And especially when you have just an amazing guest, wonderfully talented, amazing. We have an author, songwriter, educator that is very passionate as far as reaching out to children and maximizing their imaginations. So today I have the honor of introducing to you all, in case you may not know who he is, Mr. Dennis Mathew. Dennis, how are you doing on this beautiful morning?
Good, brother. Glad to be with you on a Saturday with my massive flask with no lid. I was not going to put that lid on top of it. I knew I was going to chug all of it. So, hi, Josh. I see you. Buenos dias to you too. Yeah. Love being on here with you. I've heard great things about you. The minute you started posting links about our show together, my friends, our mutual friends, and new friends started commenting, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be a great show." So definitely excited to be here with you, man.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited. I know you were with Rochelle, and and Rochelle is amazing too, and so that's wonderful. So I'm glad that I have the opportunity also to have you on the show, and I just want to give a big shout out to Mr. Josh Tovar, who's joining us, and he'll be a guest later on next this coming month, actually. So I'm really excited to have Josh here too as well. So it's great when we have current guests and future guests all on the same show interacting with one another, and that's wonderful. So Dennis, let's get to know you a little bit more for our audience members again who may not be familiar with your work, or for those that are, but just give us a little introduction as far as your context in education. And if you can add, my friend, one interesting fact about you that people may not know.
Yeah, so Dennis Mathew. I am based in Oklahoma City right now. My background in education is I am a speech pathologist. I'm a speech therapist here in Mustang, Oklahoma, place I call my home. This is my 15th year in education. And what got me into education is a love for children. I grew up just from a very young age. I grew up in church and in youth programs and whatnot, just being involved in kids ministry, youth ministry. And it just made sense that my career should be an extension of my passions, my love. And then out of that journey in education, which has lasted over a decade by the grace of God, my authorship has also evolved. And the saga continues, the journey continues, not perfect by any means, but just learning every day, just being a student of life every day. Interesting fact, I would say, is I'm of South Indian descent. So my wonderful, beautiful, hardworking parents moved to the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, in the 1970s as immigrants seeking work. And I was born in Abu Dhabi, the capital of the United Arab Emirates. And again, because they wanted a better life for me and my sister, they left everything in the UAE after being there for 25 plus years. They wanted to start over, and they came to Mustang, Oklahoma, in 2000, and we started a new life here in the United States. We became citizens. So that's an interesting fact that we've traveled the world to get to where we are. And my mother just recently retired after being a nurse for 40 years. So both my dad and mom are retired now. My sister and I are very thankful for their hard work. And now they get to just relax and watch my little daughter and take care of her and my sister's son. So that's the interesting fact about me. We've kind of been all over the world in a sense to get to where we are right now.
Wow, that is definitely very interesting,
Yeah.
Dennis. Thank you so much for sharing that and your background. And most importantly, like I can already hear, just your passion for education. And like you said, working with youth and doing ministry. And so I think that, like you said, your passion has collided in the sense of your work, and you're mixing those two. And that's something interesting that we talked about last week's episode with Mike Earnshaw and Josh Buckley, and how to find what you're passionate about and bring it into and integrate it into your work. And that's why I could definitely see just that amazing joy and just that glow that you have in working with children. So I'm excited and I'm inspired just listening to that short story and just what we're going to get into. So let's talk a little bit more about you as far as your context in education. I always love to start by letting our audience members get to know our guests and really just to hear their story of maybe where there was that one teacher or that one fork in the road or that one moment where they said, you know what, education, that's where I want to go. So tell us a little bit about where that, I guess, that spark to go into education came from.
Yeah, I thought education would be a great place and a great avenue for me to help children find their voice. And when I find helping kiddos find their voice, or helping kiddos find the best expressions of themselves in whatever avenue that is, whether that's technology, music, art, literature, dance, whatever, community, helping children find the best expressions of who they are designed and meant to be, has been my life song. That's my drum beat, so to speak. And where that comes from is I always go back to little Dennis Mathew. I go back to the child Dennis Mathew. Hi, Amanda. Good morning. I always go to little Dennis Mathew and how important it was for him, for his voice to be heard. And growing up back in the 80s, right? Education in the 80s is by no means what education is today. We just went to school because our parents told us to go to school, and that's what we needed to do. And my dad and mom were like, I better not get a call from, Miss So-and-so. Your job is to go to school and work hard. Dad and mom's job is to go to work and work hard. So, education is just what we were supposed to do as children. But and with health things that I was dealing with as a child, and in so many ways I felt like I was a social misfit. I struggled with academics. I struggled with finding friends. I always had this question of, man, Dennis, who are you? And so I felt like it was a struggle for me to find the best expression of who I was. And it has taken the last, I'm 39 years old. I feel like it has taken 4 decades to bring a manifestation of some sort of, oh, okay, these are my gifts. This is what I'm good at. Because I really struggled with low self-esteem and self-doubt and all of that going through my elementary school years, middle school years, because I wasn't great at sports, or, I wasn't, the most popular kid or whatever. So I always, my quest all throughout life has been, dude, what's in you? What gifts have been deposited in you? What can you give to the world? And so that journey has been a 4-decade journey. And so especially, so that kind of pushed me into education, because I was like, man, I don't want children to struggle with what I had to go through as a young child, wondering, who am I on the inside? I want to help kiddos find their voice. I want to help children find the best expressions of who they are, right? So I think that kind of got me into children's ministry, youth ministry, then evolved into, it was time for, going to college and finding a full-time job to support a family. And I was like, I kid you not, I first, like every other, I shouldn't say every other, but like most Indian families, my family said, maybe you should go into medicine, or maybe you should go into pharmacy, or maybe you should go into computer science. And I kid you not, I flunked every subject in every single one of those majors in college. I struggled in computer science because I'm not a machine savvy person. I wasn't, I should say. Pharmacy did not, the pharmacy major did not resonate with me because I wasn't into like studying about, like medicine and, experiments and all that. I knew deep down I was wired to work with people. People are my jam. I love building community, building relationships, getting to know people. So I was just like, man, is there a career where I could, bring my passions and, for lack of a better word, monetize it? Is there any way I could live in my passions and still bring an income from that? And so the common sense answer seemed like education. You love children, Dennis. You love helping kiddos find their voice. Education makes sense. And I knew, and I knew that the classroom scenario is not where I was best gifted. I wanted to be a specialist that especially worked in niche areas, so to speak. And that's what kind of got me to explore speech pathology. And I love that the kiddos that sit with me in my room for therapy are children that really struggle with figuring out, man, I can't speak clearly, or man, I stutter, or man, I can't process questions well. Is there something wrong with me? Like, can somebody help me? Like, I love that those are the kiddos that I get to work with, and those are the kiddos I get to empower and build confidence in, and say, listen, just because you know need to work on a few other areas, that doesn't minimize or diminish all the plethora of beautiful things that there are about who you are, right? And in so many ways, when I'm talking to them, what I'm tapping into is old Dennis, young Dennis Mathew. That's where I'm going in my mind. I'm speaking to that young kid as I'm, for lack of a better word, ministering or, serving or teaching my little ones who sit in front of me. Because I see that young Dennis Mathew in my students. So my childhood has fueled my journey into education, into speech pathology. And I feel like it's all linked up. And now to even get more fine-tuned, it has kind of channeled my authorship as well. So I feel like all of my journey in education is about helping children find their voice. And by that, I mean, literally this last week, I had a little girl who, who has a language delay, who I work with. I asked her a question, and I kid you not, out of her mouth, she's maybe 7 years old. She literally sat in front of me and she said, "I'm not smart," the 7-year-old girl. And I said, "No, baby, that is so not true. There are so many beautiful things about you." And I went on and on and on and on and on about the beautiful things I saw about this little girl. And I said, listen, never in my room should I ever hear that sentence come out of your mouth, because yes, you need help with a few things, just like Mr. Mathew needs help with 50,000 things. But hey, we all need help on so many things. But that doesn't mean we don't have good things that we're really good at. So I encourage that young lady, 7 years old, little girl, little student of mine, to never say that she wasn't smart. So our little ones say those, negative things about themselves over their lives. Even our little ones do that. So it is our job as educators to go into that mantra that's in their mind and break that cycle, so to speak, and say, "Oh, no. You are meant for greater things," right? And that's what I mean by helping even little ones, helping our students, helping our children find the best expressions of who they are meant to be, who they are now, finding their voice. So that's my mission in education, and I do that as a speech pathologist and an author in this current season.
Man, that is amazing. That is wonderful. I'm so thankful for your passion, your heart, what you just shared right now. You can definitely, just feel just an amazing presence. And I'm just so thankful for what you're doing, and especially, like you said, amplifying student voice, letting them be heard, helping them through. And more importantly, like you said, you just always revert back to your former self, your old self, to bring back that knowledge. You tap into that and you just embrace the students that are in front of you and you build them up. And man, that is just amazing. So it's like, I'm speechless right now because I'm so pumped up and so just excited and just really just taken in by what you've had to share. And the constant is the passion. Like, I can see it, I can hear it in your voice. I can definitely tell that you're genuine and authentic. And of course, like you said, that definitely led into now your authorship, and now even being able to extend your reach to so many more children. And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second, but also just a little bit more background, coming up and knowing that this is where you wanted to go into. I wanted to ask, who have been maybe the two most influential people that that you've had in your life to help you be where you're at today?
So when I think of teachers, I always think of my math teacher, I want to say in second grade or third grade, in the United Arab Emirates. Man, I was if I was in your class, I was that behavior child that consumed most of your time. I had a teacher who I remember was all about tough love. She had tough expectations for me. I shouldn't say tough expectations, but high expectations, or high. She made sure that I delivered on the terms of whatever she needed me to do as a student. But at the same time, I remember at the end of every day, when we would leave, she would stand at the door and she would hug every child, and I got a hug too. And I remember as a second grade student that no matter what the details, the ins and outs of the day looked like, even if Dennis Mathew, 8-year-old Dennis Mathew, was acting up in class and she had to give me consequences, yada, 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 I knew no matter what, the steady constant was when I was at that door to leave for the day, I got a hug from her and then I love you. So I knew that motherly, constant nurture was there, even as part of that tough love. And that was how my parents raised me too. So it was almost like the classroom was an extension of the home. It was a constant. And I knew that, Miss Matthews talked to my dad and mom constantly about, like, there was a steady communication between my parents and the classroom teacher. So I knew I could not fool either party as an 8-year-old. So I just knew that there was tough, firm, nurturing love waiting for me at home and the classroom. And then I remember in 6th grade, there was another teacher who really won my heart. Her approach was completely different. She was not tough or firm, but gentle and loving. So the constant, though, in both of those scenarios, this teacher's name was Pramila. And so you had Miss Matthews for me in 2nd grade. I want to say it was 2nd grade. And then Miss Pramila in 6th grade, both in the UAE, both very loving teachers who took 2 different approaches to me. And I think the key there was discernment, like meeting a student in the season that they are in, knowing how to adapt. And I think I can tell you as a therapist, I have made the mistake many times where I start a session and I miss to discern the student of where he or she is. Like, we are so, I don't know if, I don't know if classroom teachers do this, but maybe you do. We have a certain agenda and a lesson plan and a focus that we're trying to get a job done for the day. And in the meanwhile, in the process of informing, we forget we miss where the child is in that particular day, right? Who knows what has gone on at home? Who knows what personal issues the child is dealing with? So I think the reason why those 2 teachers were able to get through to me is because they were very discerning, and based on their discernment, they were able to adapt their relationship building styles. And once that relationship was built, they could then teach me, right? And a lot of times I feel, I'll speak for myself. I can tell you a lot of times I've put information in front of relationship building, right? I've put rigor in front of relationship building, and I've missed the moment, so to speak. And so I think I'm just now 15th year in my career. Connection before content. Yes, Josh. So I want to say in my 15th year, I think I'm finally maturing as a professional to understand, be discerning, real time, just know where a child is and adapt your style, right? But I'm thankful I'm getting there finally, because I think for the last decade and a half or so, it's just always been, I'm the professional. I know how to fix whatever the child needs fixing with, right? And it's just, I've got 30 minutes. I need to get my job done to move on to the next session. But I missed that moment to connect with the child. And so I think now I think the journey is finally humbling me to realize it really is, it really makes a difference to take the time to be discerning of the child and take the time to make that connection and just meet the student where they are at, like Josh just said in his comment.
Yeah.
So the other thought I had the other day was, we're more than individuals who just inform, because kids can get on Google and get information, right? We're there to do more than inform. We're even there to do more than inspire. All right, just to get them hyped up about their future. So we're more than like just informers. We're more than people who just inspire. I think we're in the business of making an impartation. That's what I really want to hang my hat on. And to impart means to give of yourself, right? To give of what you have built on the inside, right? And we cannot impart out of emptiness or a void. So it's very important that we make sure that we are feeding ourselves, nourishing ourselves, making sure that we are the kind of quality people who can then give out of our abundance to the children that are sitting in front of us. If we are empty on the inside, if we have not read up, if do, I mean, let's talk self-care. We'll go there. Like, if we have not taken whatever, if we have not done whatever we need to do to really fill ourselves up, care for ourselves, then when our children are sitting in front of us, we have to give out of emptiness. And that's usually where frustrations come up, right? So I think when we give of our abundance, when we give of ourselves, we don't just, when our student, and then when our students leave our room, they don't just leave with inspiration, they don't just leave with information, they leave with an impartation, they leave with ingredients for a better character, ingredients for becoming better citizens, ingredients for becoming better professionals in the future, leaving with invaluables like sticking to commitments, a hard work ethic, keeping your promise, loyalty. Those valuables are taught when we impart of ourselves into our children. Well, Mr. Mathew, why are you so faithfully showing up for my sessions? Why do you constantly tell me that you love me so much, right? And then having that child down the road make the connection of, man, it was so important to Mr. Mathew to consistently, faithfully remind me every day, no matter how I performed in speech, it was important for him, beyond that, beyond my performance in speech, to remind me that I was so important and so valuable to him and that he loved me, right? That was more important to Mr. Mathew. And so that when I constantly tell my children, I love you all so much, go out and have the best day, I'm imparting consistent, constant love for them. And I think that gives them the ingredient of, like, oh man, I'm more than just a student who does X, Y, and Z for my educators. I'm becoming a better person who can go change the world. So I think impartation is super important. We can't give of our abundance, give of ourselves, if we ourselves are empty as human beings, right? So all that to say, take the time to make sure that we as educators are full on the inside. I hope I'm not rambling there. I hope I'm making sense. Go ahead.
No, that was absolutely just on point. Like, a lot of the stuff that you hit on, I mean, it just really resonated with me when I was in the classroom for 11 years, prior to this position. I mean, that's what it was all about. Dennis, you hit on so many things. It's all about relationships. We're in the people business. And like you said, and I'm going to bring up Josh's comment that he said here. It says, you need to connect with kids because kids do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so it is crucial, like Josh says here, to make those connections. And I think I think a lot of teachers, like you said, we do have that agenda. We have our lesson plan. We have to do this and meet certain things. But I feel when I was in the classroom, that was secondary, in the sense that I needed to know where my kids were at that day, and understanding and I guess, I don't know if that came from my business background, as I came in from industry into the classroom, but it was all about, personalized learning, customer service, knowing my customers. So I always took it at the time. I took the time, or invested the time, at the beginning of the year and every day, to know where my students were at. So that would make me a better teacher, in the sense of, okay, I know that, Juan, is having a little bit of trouble this morning. Let me see how I can still teach my lesson, but still reach out to him, but give him, or, give, Lily what they needed that day, whether it was, just encouragement, whether it was just giving them their space, but just really meeting them where they were at. And of course, making them feel that, hey, you do matter and you're important to me. And I want to make sure that you're well in my class, because again, that was just in my heart, being that servant in that way, and that servant leader. Just wanted my students to just have the best time of their life in the classroom and leaving out of there saying, oh man, I want to be back. I can't wait for tomorrow because Mr. Mendoza is going to be doing this. And much like you described. And so I definitely identify myself with what you said. And I know that there are many wonderful, fine educators that are out there that do this day in and day out and give of themselves and impart that joy. And that's my friend Joe Dubois, Du Bois,
Yes, yes,
you
yes,
know,
yes, yes.
imparted joy, so it's wonderful, man. Thank you so much for sharing that, because that's definitely very important. And another key thing that you hit on, it's we need to be full. We as educators need to be full before we go in there into the classroom, because I believe that right now a lot of teachers may be burnt out. They're running on empty, that fuel tank. And like you said, out of there, you get those frustrations, you get all those feelings, and making it hard on yourself, and just that negativity, and the kids feed off of that, what you're sharing.
Absolutely, man. I don't know. I don't know if this matters, but one little thing that I do every day, very, very intentionally, whether a child is my student or not, I am really big on eye contact. I mean, just walking down the hallway, if there's a child just passing, I make sure that I am waiting for their eye contact. If they don't give me eye contact, I just say, "Good morning, how are you?" And I'm very intentional about being on their radar. Even if they're not welcoming an interaction, at the very least, I'll greet them and let them go their way. But if my eyes are always ready with students and grown-ups, I'm always looking for eye contact, because when the eyes meet, on many levels, we tell our fellow human beings, "I see you. You have been seen," right? And a lot of times, the eyes are very telling. If I see a child with sad eyes, I'll ask them, "Hey, you okay? Like, your eyes are red. Did you not get enough sleep?" Right? Instead of just like passing them in the hallway like ships passing each other at night, right? And I don't know, like, yes, I have a master's degree in speech pathology, but beyond all those complex, like degrees and years of education and all the technicalities that have accumulated over the decade and a half or whatever, little things like making eye contact, giving a fist bump to a child, or waving from a distance and socially distancing, the era that we're in, or smiling, just asking, "How are you doing?" Or if I'm passing them in the hallway and kiddos are lined up in the hallway having breakfast, just saying, "Okay, quickly eat your breakfast. Your teacher's waiting for you." Making that interaction, even if it's just for a second, just to let children know you matter, no matter where you are in life, whatever your story will end up being, you matter because you are you, like, you matter. And I think that's my song, my life's song. And that also matters when it comes to my coworkers. In so many ways, grown-ups have not left. I'm a big believer in this. In so many ways, grown-ups have not left their childhood. We live out, we're still living out remnants of whatever we've been given, remnants of whatever we've gone through as children. There is a reason why Mr. Mendoza is behind a mic talking to a guy from Oklahoma City. There's a reason why Josh is on our conversation, chiming in. Like, we're all tapping into something to manifest who we are in present day, right? And so, even with my coworkers, when I'm done with my day, and I'm not trying to paint this, "Ooh, Dennis Matthews a saint" kind of picture. That's not what I'm saying. But those are the little things that I do that build relationships with both children and grown-ups. So when I'm done with my day and I'm closing my office, and my office is at the head of the hallway, my car's on the other side of the building, I literally have to pass every classroom in my hallway to leave the building and get to my car. And I make sure that if there's a teacher in the room, "Good night, Razor. Good night, Barreras. Good night, Amy. Good night, Cap." Just making sure that I wish them well, right? Those personal connections. Or if I see a teacher just burnt out, checking in, saying, "Yo, you good? You doing okay? You need anything?" The other day, by the grace of God, I knew a teacher had a long day. I texted her. I was just like, you know what? Tomorrow I have some availability in my schedule. I need to get some paperwork done. Can I just do it in your room? Why don't you take a break? And I gave her an extra break, and she gave, or as a reward, she gave her students an indoor recess because it was like blazing hot outside in Oklahoma. So the kids could not go out anyways. And so she gave an extra extension to her recess as a reward for her kiddos, indoor recess. And I said, you know what? Why don't you get out of the classroom? You've had a long day. I need to get some paperwork done. I'll come into your room with my laptop and I'll just be working at your desk. I'll keep an eye on your kids. You go out and you leave the room and take 45 minutes to yourself. But, and I'm not going to take credit because I'm a person of faith. I'm not going to take credit for that. That was the goodness of God to like help me pay attention to that teacher. But I saw her taking her kids to essentials and I texted her. I was just like, you okay? Like, you look worn out. And she was like, Dennis, it's been a long day. And the only reason why I was able to do that is because I paid attention to her eyes. Her eyes said that she was burned out. And I knew she desperately needed a break. Now, this is also a teacher that I've had differences of opinion with in the past about many things. So when I was able to be present for her in her moment of need, I was telling her many things without telling her many things. I was telling her, regardless of our differences of opinion about other things outside of education, you as a human being matter to me. I can tell that you are at the end of your rope with 20-something children in your room. You getting a break is important to me, right? So looking at her eyes and in a moment of a busy day is what woke that up in me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So just being there for the way that I'm there for my coworkers is very, very similar in so many ways to how I'm there for my children, for my students. So it's not something. Relationship building is not different with adults than children. It's just being there for people and paying attention. So all that to say, I do something as little as paying attention to someone's eyes, whether it's a child or my coworker, to check in on them, right? Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. If there are educators out there that are wondering, man, I don't know how to build relationships with my students, I just wanted to throw that out there. I just know that eye contact, looking for eye contact. Hi, AJ. Being intentional with eye contact has really helped me in building bridges with both my students and my coworkers. Maybe that was just me rambling on, but I wanted to kind of just.
No, man, not at all. Like these are things that are so important. And I'd just like to welcome AJ. Thank you, AJ, for joining us this morning. My great friend AJ says, no matter with who, it is important and will build relationships with build bridges, and build relationships. I know AJ is real big on relationships, as he is what I like to call a teacher straighter. He is a new vice principal, but he definitely has a teacher's heart, and he's still teaching no matter. Well, he's a vice principal, but that's why I just call him a teacher straighter, because he's still that administrator / teacher. So yeah. So thank you so much for joining, AJ. Appreciate you, my friend. Dennis, like, we can definitely do a part 2 about this and everything, but let's talk a little bit about now your authorship, your books. Now we've talked about, and we can hear and we can see your passion just for reaching out. And so I want to talk about your books that you have out. And I have put the website on our chat, booksbydennis.com. And I see here that you've got 4 books that are out. Tell us where that authorship, that purpose came from, and then of course talk to us about the books that you have out and the resources and what you do now as well, aside from being a speech pathologist, as if you don't already have enough on your plate with that, but now this outreach and being able to reach out to more students to help maximize their imaginations.
Yeah, so educators are my family, man. Like when I talk to educators, I think a lot of educators that know me will say, Dennis always calls me brother. Dennis always calls me sister. And that's just how I address my fellow educators, because I just feel educators are a part of my family, that we're siblings in a common cause, which is reaching children. And so this authorship venture kind of came out again as an extension of helping children find their voice. And I can tell you that what I tap into when I write my books is really my childhood. And so, I don't know if you saw my post last night, my brand new book. I'm out of my little, my author's copy or whatever, because I gave it to my art teacher. She's creating some content for me. But my brand new book that just came out in May already has like 6,000 copies in pre-order, and I'm going to be getting about 6,000 copies coming in from China this week. And as soon as they arrive, I'm going to be taking about a month to autograph all those books and send them across the country, and it'll be time to place another order. But yeah, I've got 3 books out and a music album. I've got 2 of my book babies right here. I've got Bello the Cello and My Wild First Day of School. And really, the messages of my book go back into my own childhood experiences. So Bello the Cello is about a little cello that goes to school, and he's struggling to find his song. He's struggling to find his voice. He's struggling to understand why his song is different than the songs of the other instruments in his classroom. Where does that come from? That is my childhood story. Growing up, I just wondered, man, Dennis, are you good at anything? Did God put any gifts in you? Are you going to make a difference in the world? That question haunted me all through elementary, middle school, high school. And in 2017 is when just life circumstances happening. I was actually unemployed, could not find work as an educator. We were in the Boston area. Pressure kind of produced purpose. And so it kind of forced me to just, because I had nothing else going on, I was just like, well, fine, I have the story in my head that's been in my mind for a decade. Let me just sit down and write. And thanks to Atmosphere Publishing, I finally got it out January of 2019. Fast forward to, what are we, September in 2021. I think we're sitting at around 12,000 copies distributed. 12 to 13,000 copies distributed in public schools all across this country. Just tapping into my childhood, tapping into something that I had to deal with and overcome. The second book is My Wild First Day of School. Why did I write this one? Because I was a wild child, and I dedicated this to my beautiful, amazing, sweet parents who had their hands full. If I was in your classroom, I consumed your day. So you had to be gifted to be a teacher for Dennis Mathew. So I was a wild child. And so My Wild First Day of School is all about encouraging children that are scared about the first day of school to seize the moment, just close your eyes and just go for it. Take risks, healthy risks, risks that are good for your future, i.e. risks for building, risks in the area of trying new things, building relationships, being bold and courageous to try new experiences. That's what My Wild First Day of School is about. How Grizzly Found Gratitude. Thank you, AJ. How Grizzly Found Gratitude is all about how can a person use gratitude to help themselves overcome traumatic experiences. And this is more so tapping into, I've got the concept for the story tapping into what I was dealing with as a grown-up living in Boston. I was going through many transitions, moving from Oklahoma to Boston, and gratitude, with the help of community, gratitude is what got me through all those curveballs I was dealing with. So How Grizzly Found Gratitude is about, helping children deal with transitions by harnessing gratitude, by harnessing gratefulness, by harnessing thankfulness. So collectively, since becoming an author about 2.5 years ago, I think by the end of this year, by the grace of God, I will have distributed around 30,000 of my books into public schools all across this country. And there is no major publishing house backing me. I don't have a literary agent. Nobody's making calls for me. Nothing. By the grace of God, I'm just a believer in hard work. Just putting my head down and just grinding it out. I feel like, children are waiting for my stories to get to them. Like I feel like there are children in the future waiting to have a copy of Bello the Cello, waiting for a copy of My Wild First Day of School. And I kind of feel like I'm a missionary trying to get my books that empower children into their hands. I want kiddos to be able to open these books and say, oh, wow, if Mr. Mathew, a person of color, can come from India to the US, go through the immigrant experience, and now he is an author. If Mr. Mathew can go through that at the age of 40, then I can also pursue my heart's dreams and become my best self. That sounds so cliche, but I feel like that's the process I am in. I'm always thinking about, what will your legacy be, Dennis? Like, you get one life to live. You're coming up on 40, and I'm looking at the next 40 years, and I'm sitting here thinking, what am I going to do if God will give me the blessing of being alive for 40 more years? What am I going to do for them with the next 4 decades? Because so that's kind of how I map my life out, and so I want every moment to matter, especially because I'm a husband and I'm a father to a 2.5-year-old daughter. I want her to know, man, Dad was not perfect by any means. Dad had so many things he was working on, even as a grown up. He was working on things. He was working on himself. But it was so important for him to make every moment matter. And so much, when people ask me, what's your driving force? Like, what keeps you going? I always say my wife and my daughter are big inspirations. My girls, like, you know what I mean? So much is about them. And it's about things that I've gone through as a childhood, in my childhood. So all that to say, I don't want my educators, my brothers and sisters in this cause, to leave out their personal lives in the quest of reaching children. Bring your whole self into the classroom. Children need to see the real you. If a student asks you, are you okay, Mr. Mathew? Mr. Mathew has to be real enough to say, baby, I'm not having a good day, but it's okay. I'm going to get through it, so that little Johnny or little Susie can see, oh, my teacher is not perfect. I thought my teacher was Superman. I guess he's not. But he is still persisting through hardship to reach me. That's that impartation that I was talking about earlier. So then when little Johnny or little Susie goes through whatever, they can say, you know what, it's a bad day, but Mr. Mathew survived his bad day and he still showed up for work. I guess I can do the same, right? That's impartation. That's building endurance into our children beyond 3 + 2 = 5. And, right, we are imparters. We are in the business of making impartations rather than just information. Once you make great deposits, great impartations, and that relationship is built, information you can dispense. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where my authorship is. Just bringing real, true stories of my life to children in the form of stories. And I'm also a singer-songwriter. Emotions are really big for me. My songs are very raw and real. So when I do author visits across the country, I do these virtual shows just like this, just like the one we're on right now. And they're like virtual concerts, man. I open up with my guitar and I just rock out. I sing a song called What's Bothering You that kids love. There's another song that I sing called A Place to Belong that children love. There's a song called Let's Roar on which I rap. So if people go to booksbydennis.bandcamp.com, booksbydennis.bandcamp.com, the title song is Let's Roar. I took a risk. I was like, man, I know there's rap in me. I want to just go for it. So I just got in the studio and just went for it, and it turned out really good. It's a rock rap song called Let's Roar. It's a favorite of a lot of children. So yeah, man, I feel like even at 40, 50, 60, 70, you can realize the dreams that you had as a 7-year-old, as an 8-year-old. I don't want our educators to completely lose their childhood. Harness the joys that you had in your childhood and live it out in your classroom with your students. That's where education becomes lively and engaging and joyful to our children when they see that, oh man, Mr. Mathew or Mr. Mendoza or Mr. Tovar or Mr. AJ brings joy into our building. That joy lives, like, as we grow up, because Grown-ups get so complicated with bills and testing and assessment and schedules and agenda. A lot of times we leave our childhood. We leave the little treasures of joy and messiness and coloring outside the lines, like, taking risks. We abandon that to, like, take on rules and agenda and schedule and assessment and bills and, right? All of those things matter, but let's also keep our childhood. Let's bring the treasures of our childhood into all of this stuff so that we can, in the end, win kids, right? Um, that was a really long answer to a simple question of, hey, man, tell me a little bit about your book. So
No, but you definitely hit on a lot of things that I would have asked about anyway. I mean, you talked about your book, you talked about the virtual visits, the way that you interact with students still even virtually or in person, singing songs, and the way that you just describe this really, like you said, this is definitely your mission. This is your calling. This is, what has been given to you, this wonderful gift of connecting with other children and making them see, like you said, I mean, the same dream that you described. If Mr. Mathew can do this, from moving and the immigrant experience and being able to do this and get a master's degree, working as a speech pathologist, being in education, writing a book, having a family and still being able to do this, that is definitely motivating. And I think, you hit on a lot of things. This is why I do what I do as well, living that experience with my parents and having to work hard and just, let's grind it out, and we're going to move forward and we're going to push. And that's the same reason that I'm behind a microphone, but more
yes.
than anything because I want to learn from other people, because I want to hear their stories, because I know that I have a story, but I want people, like you said, this show is always a spotlight to connect educators, creators, to collaborate someday, but most importantly, hear their stories, because this is inspiring to other teachers that are out there that may be having a hard time. This is inspiring, for teachers, counselors to say, hey, this Dennis Mathew, look at what he's doing. He's maximizing imaginations. He's giving, amplifying student voice, choice, creativity, all of those things. Hey, let's call him up. Let's see what we can do. Maybe we can do an author visit and things of that sort. And then you're reaching out and you're just pouring your heart out, and that's what I love. Like you said, that impartation, you're investing, you're giving of yourself, of your experience to every child, every ear, every eye that is there watching, and they're leaving with a sense of, hey, I'm okay, and I'm going to be okay, and somebody here showed me that I am going to be okay as long as I just keep being persistent, continue moving forward, and I'm going to find my song too.
Yes.
And yes, and that's what I love, Dennis. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you being here and sharing, and most definitely I would definitely love to have another part 2 with this show. We'll definitely schedule that for a later time, because I know you just have so much in your heart to share that we can continue talking more and more. But again, thank you so much for sharing. And what I'm going to do here also is I'm going to go ahead and put your website up here so people know, booksbydennis.com. Visit the website here. You will be able to find, of course, you'll know a little bit more about Dennis. You can visit the store here as well, where you will be able to find, talking about Bello the Cello, How Grizzly Found Gratitude, My Wild First Day of School. You've got curriculum links here too, as well. Guys, the testimonials seriously are no joke. This is one of the things, that I got to read, and I got to read these wonderful letters from all of these wonderful schools. And again, if you're not a believer as far as, the impact that Dennis can have for your district through the opportunity of an author visit or getting the books, please go and read these testimonials. They are just wonderful and amazing, and they just are a testimony, of the great work that my great friend here, Dennis, is sharing and bringing out to everybody. And of course, you can find the contact links up here, where you can find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So please make sure that you do visit his site, and just plan an author visit for your kiddos, whether you're one library or a whole district all at once. I mean, definitely be worth it for you for sure, as you can hear his passion for, reaching out to students as well. Well, Dennis, before we wrap up, I always like to kind of end just kind of on a little lighter note and just give some questions to our audience members here where they can kind of just, get their thought process, maybe a little bit more spontaneous. But if Dennis Mathew can have one billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
So the billboard would say this phrase has been on my heart this whole week. Lead the one. Lead the one. I think my billboard would say lead the one, because when we think of leadership, we always think about, not always, but at least for me, the picture that comes to my mind is a leader being at the head of something and leading a mass, speaking to a mass of people. And so this week, what's really been on my heart is lead the one child that's in front of you, right? What heart shifts, heart changes can you make by leading the one that is front of you? Because that one could possibly go on and change the world because of how you led him or her. So being faithful to disciple, lead the one person. If you don't have 50 people in front of you, don't get bummed out. How could you lead the one that's in front of you? That could be talking to a father who has one child at home, the mother that has one child at home, the speech therapist that just has to worry about, I don't want to say just has to worry about, but the speech therapist that has one kid in front of her at a time, or one kid in front of him at a time. So lead the one like you would lead 50,000, right? Pour the passion that you would pour into 50,000 into the one. What would that result look like, right? That energy, what would it look like? So I would say it would be lead the one. Yeah.
Man, that is wonderful.
Because that person could be the one. I don't know what he or she could go and do, maybe find a cure for something, invent the next whatever, right? But treat the one that's sitting in front of you like he or she is the one, right? That you need to like absolutely pour your heart into and lead. So I think my billboard would say lead the one. Yeah.
That is wonderful, man. I love that. That's definitely great because, like you said, you just don't know whether it's 50, whether it's one, but that one person can also connect to a multitude of other people as well. And again, it's just that connection. It just continues to go. That investment is there. That impartation lives on, and it just continues to connect other people, and that's wonderful, man. That's amazing. Next question for you, my friend. Currently, in of course our state of education, our landscape has changed significantly, of course, in the last 18 months, now going on a little bit longer. But what would you say would be your edu kryptonite? Your edu kryptonite. What kind of weakens you right now as far as what you're seeing in education?
Oh man. I would say specifically with this season that we're in, educators not having the needed technological resources that they need to reach kiddos, especially when children are not in the rooms physically and they are home, and we have to rely on paper packets and not actually being there, even if it's virtually, face to face. So I feel like teachers, educators not having the needed technological resources to reach their children in this season, especially with COVID going on, I would say that bums me out when I hear teachers say we only have one whatever to an entire classroom, to a 20, to 25 kids or whatever. I would say that. And that's specifically speaking to this particular season that we're in, right? The day that we are over COVID, it might be something else. But I feel like, especially in this era where even now school districts are playing it day to day, do we need to be virtual? Do we need to be in person? Are we doing a mask mandate? Right? I feel like we really need to get our educators the technology that they need to reach children, give them the tools that they need. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. And my final question, my friend, if you and I were to switch roles and this was your podcast, what would be one question you'd like to ask me?
Holy moly. Let's keep it simple. I would say, no, I guess it's not simple. If you had all the money in the world, what would you do with it? I guess it would be my question.
Wow, if I had all the money in the world, what would I do? I guess
Hmm.
I would just share it. I mean, there isn't any need for, from in my eyes, there isn't any need for anybody to be without a home, go hungry, or not have basic necessities. So if I had all the money in the world, why not split it evenly? Live a life where everybody has their basic needs met. There are no children that are going hungry. There are no children that are wondering where their next meal may come from. There are no parents that may wonder where their next, paycheck is coming from to pay the bills and things of that sort. And I mean, that's what I would love. I would love to see where we can all just man, you really got me there.
Well, I would even say,
Yeah.
knowing my ed tech life, I think if
Yeah.
you got all the money in the world, I think you would make sure that kind of piggybacking on my last answer, I
Mhm.
think you would make sure every educator had all the technological resources that they needed to reach kids, right?
Yeah.
Money wouldn't be a deterring factor, right?
Yeah.
I,
Definitely.
knowing your heart, I think you would make sure teachers were taken care of from that
Yeah.
angle.
No, and most definitely, like, especially educators, I want to take care of all my educator friends, just make sure they have everything facilitated to them, that burnout would not even exist. Like, that wouldn't even be a word or a phrase or anything. And that the students would definitely just continue to grow and have every opportunity. Like, and I'm talking like every student would have the opportunity to just be able to have everything, like the same, their needs as far as schooling is concerned. And just to have that wonderful glorious society that is perfect, where everybody can just get along to as well. And I would love that, my friend. I mean, it's just something amazing. But like you said, even then, it could just be by leading the one, that can somebody else can also just continue to add to that and just bring that message across and work together towards that end goal. And you never know, we may see it in our lifetime, we may not see it in our lifetime, but it's definitely something that I would love to see. Well, Dennis, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your energy. I appreciate your heart. Your heart definitely shows the grace that God has given you, and the gift that God has given you is just amazing. And I'm just so thankful for you being here on this show, sharing your passion. And I'm excited to see what Dennis Mathew will continue to do in the future as you continue to reach out to students, giving them their voice, amplifying their voice. And I'm just really excited. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. I appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me on your platform. I thank you, AJ. Thank you for having me on your platform, allowing me to kind of stand on what you've built to kind of get my voice out there. I really appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Anytime. And again, you are now, well, everybody, I call them my PLF, my personal learning family. And so you're always welcome to come back, because you are family. And again, that goes to everybody, that's been on the show before and who will be in the show after. But now you're part of that learning family that I get to pick your brain, get to reach out to you, learn from, and just to continue to build that wonderful family of educators and practitioners that are out there trying to make a difference for everybody, teachers and students alike. So thank you so much. And all my friends, thank you. I really appreciate you being here live with us today. If you're going to catch us on the replay, you know where to find us. Just go to myedtech.life. This episode will be up shortly. Please make sure that you drop us a line, give us a review, let us know what we're doing. I really appreciate your feedback, because I'm always looking to give you the best of me every single Saturday, every single episode. So let us know what we're doing well, what we may not be doing well. And again, it's all great. I take it and I roll with it. So again, my goal is just to make this the best episodes, best shows, best platform for you to come and just get to know our wonderful educators personally, professionally, and of course, just to hear their passions. So, again, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you being here. AJ, Amanda, Josh, thank you so much for participating in the chat. And again, my friends, until next time, don't forget, stay techie, my friends.
Peace out.